Coming in Facebook, coming in YouTube, getting ready to start my show called Jimmy Rants over on Instagram. What's up, Johanna? Over on YouTube. Thank you guys for being here today. We're going to get started here with Ask Me Anything here momentarily. Got a lot of headlines to get to at the very beginning here today. There's never a dullness when it comes to quick hit kind of headlines that I want to talk about for Ask Me Anything. It's the long form ones that sometimes I go, okay, is that worthy of like a whole show just about that? And so I can have trouble with those. But I find lots all throughout the week. I find lots of little short ones to get to, which is perfect at the very beginning of my Friday Ask Me Anything. What's up, Norma? What's up, Tracy? Norma says, happy Friday. Yes. It's so funny, like when I was a kid, Friday was like a thing where you kind of get excited. And I guess adults still get excited about it, that work Monday through Friday, and Friday is the last day of work, and then they have a weekend. And of course, this weekend's a long weekend for most people that don't have like a service industry. You don't work Monday, so you're off today. After today, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and go back to work Tuesday. So, of course, a lot of people are still working remotely from home as well. So being off doesn't really mean you're like, yeah, I think people are missing kind of that going to the office and all the rituals of our normal life. If there's one word that does not describe 2020 at all, it's the word normal. Ain't nothing normal about 2020. Like everything you could have imagined would be abnormal, we are experiencing in this crazy year we're in. But thanks for being here today. Hello, Shirley. Thanks for being here over on YouTube. What's up, Pamela? Thanks for coming in. And Joel, thank you guys for being here today. We're going to get started with my show called Jimmy Rants. This is a show I do Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It originates over on Instagram Live, but I also simulcast for you guys. So if you want to join, come Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We always try to come on here first on both Facebook and YouTube. You guys are kind of my B-roll. The main show is right here. So when I'm talking and I'm looking at this camera, don't think I'm ignoring you. It's just this is where I do the show from, and we let you guys sneak in. We let you also participate by making your comments down there. And on Fridays, I actually have you literally ask anything you want. So you guys can go ahead and start loading me up with questions. I will literally answer anything you want to ask. If I don't know the answer, I'll let you know. I don't know, but I could find out. But anything about keto and fasting and cholesterol, me personally, podcasting, YouTubing, like I've got a lot of experience in a lot of different areas. So hello, Herbie, come on in. So go ahead and start putting your questions down there. YouTube, I am so proud of you, by the way. Lately, when I have been doing Ask Me Anything, you're the ones that have been providing me the most and best questions. So thank you for that. I'm hoping that I get some. I know I'm being shadow banned somewhat over on Instagram because I go live. Hey, Bill, over on YouTube. I know I go live there, and used to, I would go live, and within like 10, 15 seconds, I've got 25, 30 people on there, and they're already starting to load in. Now I go live, and it's just like dead silence for that same amount of time, 10, 15, 20 seconds. And then they kind of trickle in at that point. And I've had several of my followers over there say, I don't get the notification when you're live. So yeah, they've shadow banned me over there. One of my stories at the beginning is how they completely deleted a pretty major account in the alternative health space from Instagram. So it's sad. It's sad what's happening with the censorship, but it is extraordinarily real. It is. All right, guys, let's get this show on the road. Go ahead, start asking your questions. And just a reminder here on Facebook, you can share it on your personal page or on any group page you're a part of so that they can watch in real time just like you are today. But get your questions ready. Hello, Johanna. Thanks for being here. Go ahead and get your questions ready, you guys, because when the time comes, I will come to you, and I look forward to seeing what you want to ask about. All right, here we go. It's Friday, so that's Ask Me Anything Day. So ask me anything. Click on that little box down there in the corner. It'll take you straight to IGTV for today's episode. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content. Go follow me. I'm over on Instagram. I am at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can join Kamisha and Rebecca and Seema and Talag, Gabby, Jay Jones. So many people coming in right now. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. We go live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so you can always, always, always be right here, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and we'll be here too. We also simulcast live over on my Facebook page, so thank you guys for being here today as well. Finally, we simulcast on my YouTube stream. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay on IGTV. As soon as this is over, it goes right up on my Instagram page and on my main page, and you can click on the little box and it goes right to IGTV in case you missed the episode, or if you're joining us late, you can actually see the rest of it that way by watching IGTV. We also put it up over on YouTube. Just type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. Also, the official website for this show is JimmyRants.com. While you're there, you can watch all the past episodes there as well. I do have a Patreon account as well if you want to support the work that I'm doing here. I've moved away from the sponsorship model to just doing Patreon. I'm doing this for a period of time just to kind of see, is there interest in people supporting what I do? Because quite frankly, guys, if I don't get support, this show will go away. I have no choice but to go elsewhere to seek other forms of income. So if you like what I do, by all means, go support my Patreon. I will tell you, Patreons get a sneak peek at the next week's podcast. That's one of the perks that I offer you. So for as little as $5 a month, you actually get to see the podcast interviews I do long before everybody else. And so right now there's Michelle Hearn, the dietitian who went carnivore a couple of years ago, and then Keith Norris is talking about some of the issues surrounding COVID-19. That's the Living La Vida Low Carb Show and Real Talk episodes. They're available right now if you are a Patreon of mine. You can watch those right now, and then they come out next week. We always try to do that. We got other kind of perks we're working on as well. So go support my Patreon, or if you want to do a one-time donation, we do have a PayPal link at JimmyRants.com. Okay, you guys, it is Friday, and on Fridays, this is literally my favorite day of the week to do Jimmy Rants, because I love knowing what is on the hearts and minds of the people that follow my work, because you've got questions, and sometimes people, they'll ask a question of one of the big name people in the health community. They'll send them a DM or write a comment, and they never hear anything back at all. And as someone who is one of the leaders in the keto space, I think that's disgusting. I think if you're going to write books, if you're going to podcast, if you're going to be a teacher and an educator in the keto, carnivore, real food, whatever you want to call it, movements, you have to engage with your audience. Now, I realize some people have massive audiences of hundreds of thousands of people, and it can be a little bit challenging, but that's not an excuse that if somebody has a genuine question that they need help with, that you don't help them. I know some, and it's not me, I would never do this, although I do recommend my books, but I have some of my fellow influencers, when they get asked a question, they write back, well, go read my book. And I'm like, that's kind of a you-know-what answer. So, especially if it's something that's pretty easy to answer without any big explanation. Now, sometimes what I will do to save time, they'll say, hey, do you have any resources about like hypothyroidism? I'll send them a podcast that I did with an expert all about that subject. So I think that's pretty legit, but I would never say, no, you have to pay me and buy my book. You have to go buy Keto Clarity if you want to find out what your carb tolerance is. I wouldn't do that, and it's unfortunate that there are some that do that. So this forum on Fridays is for you guys to ask your questions. So if you got a question about keto, cholesterol, fasting, podcasting, book writing, anything personal for me, and pretty much anything that's on your heart and mind that you would like to hear my perspective on, ask away. This is your opportunity. So put your questions down there, you guys, And when we come to you in just a moment, we'll get to your questions. But first, as always, at the very beginning, I always have a few headlines that caught my attention that are quickie little headlines that I'll get to. I did have 2 questions come in ahead of time on the Instagram stories from yesterday, so we'll get to those and then we'll come to you guys. All right. The CDC has now announced, you guys, that Operation Warp Speed, when it comes to this vaccine for COVID-19, is ready to be distributed starting November 1st. So we're less than 2 months away from the federal government making available to local states and local municipalities the coronavirus vaccine to get out there. Now, the first wave is only going to be, I think they said 1 million doses in that first wave. Well, there's 330 million Americans, and so 1 million doses is not going to really penetrate too many at all. I think what they're trying to do is hit the first responders and people that work in the hospitals, and I don't know. I don't know how they're deciding who gets that first million. But I was at my local grocery store yesterday, and at the very front, they're talking about the seasonal flu vaccine. I read another news story that said they're going to use the distribution of the flu vaccine, the seasonal flu vaccine, as the same mechanism by which they're going to distribute the COVID-19 vaccine. Oh, and I saw another term in a totally another news story. I read too many news stories, but I saw another term. They're calling it the twindemic. That if you don't get the flu vaccine, and then you don't get the COVID-19 vaccine, you're susceptible to the twindemic. They've coined a new word. So just thought I'd warn you. I've literally never gotten a flu vaccine in my life. I'm certainly not going to be getting this COVID-19 vaccine. I put a poll out on my Instagram stories yesterday. How many of you are going to get this rushed vaccine? 95% said no. 95%, pretty big. But yeah, they're going to try to get this out by November 1st. And I mean, when you read stories like this of wanting to get this vaccine out by November 1st, you can't help but think it's a little bit politically motivated. And I hate that. Public health should never have politics involved in it at all. Zero. Public health should be about, I don't know, public health and nothing else. And yet, some of the powers that be would rather you not think that. All right, vitamin D. Remember when COVID-19 hit and they started doing some studies, and what they looked at in some of the blood work of the people who got the worst symptoms of COVID-19, that all had chronically low vitamin D levels. Well, guess what? So does everybody. Like, it's a chronic condition, like a lot of things that Americans are deficient in. And so they've done some studies now looking at vitamin D, and they just released the very first, this is out of Spain, the very first randomized controlled trial of vitamin D in the treatment of COVID-19. Vitamin D nearly abolished the odds of having to go into the ICU. The number of deaths was too small, because it was a small study of 76 patients, but 76 patients in this trial, they all had pneumonia from COVID-19. All patients did also get hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and a broad-spectrum antibiotic. The patients were randomly allocated to receive or not receive vitamin D in a 2-to-1 ratio. This got 50 patients in the vitamin D group, 26 in the control group. The vitamin D protocol, trying to see if they say how many IU. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to see how much they took. Oh, here it is. They took 106,400 IU of vitamin D on the first day. That is a hefty dose. Just for comparison, when I'm not in the middle of COVID-19, I usually take 10,000 IU a day plus some sunshine, and I can vacillate it from there. Since COVID-19 hit, since like mid-March, early to mid-March, I've been taking about 25 to 30,000 IU. They gave them over 100,000 IU on that very first day. just over 50,000 on days 3 through 7, and then 53,000 for the weekly thereafter. If this were given as daily doses, it would basically average out to right around 30,000 per day that first week, and then 7,600 IU per day as a maintenance. That's a pretty good dose. Now, none of that is even close to toxic. Remember, I've talked about this before. Toxic levels of vitamin D can't happen from 10,000, even 100,000 IU of vitamin D, especially when it's being used as a treatment protocol, not just a maintenance. In the maintenance 7,600, that's pretty close to the 10,000 that I use for maintenance. So they didn't actually measure what their status was of vitamin D, but it's assumed that most people don't have sufficient levels. The average in that area in Spain during this time of year, the average in which the study was conducted is 16. That's grossly low. It should be somewhere between 50 to 70 on the low end, 50 to 70, and their average is 16. So when you take 100,000 IU of vitamin D, it tends to raise it 10 nanograms per milliliter pretty quick. So it starts to go up. And so they did this big bolus trying to see if having an increased level of blood vitamin D levels would actually help. And it did. It's a small study, but statistically significant. The probability of observing differences where people go into the ICU versus not going into the ICU, it eliminated 96% of those who would have gone into the ICU but for their vitamin D levels going up. This is huge, you guys. And it reduced the odds of ICU admission by 98% when used as a treatment option when they first enter the hospital. In other words, it basically abolished any need for these patients to go into the ICU. This is good news. And I want to thank Chris Masterjohn. Those of you that may know him, Chris Masterjohn, PhD.com is his website. He wrote a fantastic kind of summary article. He's a scientist that looks at studies. And yeah, vitamin D, guys. If you're not taking vitamin D right now as kind of your preventative, not just for COVID-19, but just for your general health anyway, you should be. And get a D3 gel cap if you can. I've been using some, I've been using a variety of ones, but over the years I've used kind of a 10,000 IU D3 gel cap, and it could certainly make a big difference. So if you're concerned about coronavirus or just your immunity in general, vitamin D, get your levels up, because most people, like in that Italy study, most people are woefully inept in there. All right, the next headline, your coronavirus test is positive, but maybe it shouldn't be. This was in the New York Times, you guys. They started looking at these tests that they're using where they stick the swab up the nose to try to get a sample. It turns out that up to 90% of the people that test positive actually didn't have very much of the virus at all. In other words, what they found was most of these tests are amplifying the results. So whether you realize or not, when they ram that thing up your nose and then they put it into this machine to analyze whether you have COVID-19 or not, what it's actually doing is it's magnifying the results of what is actually measured. So let's say it's got 10 particles of COVID-19, and then on the amplification, it makes it look like 1,000. So it makes it look like it's much more significant than it is. And of course, most of these are either positive yes or no. There is no kind of, oh, it's a low end of viral load or it's a heavy viral load. They're not measuring the degree of the viral load. They're only measuring presence of and under a magnification of. So therefore, when they test and they get a very small amount of COVID-19, which again is no big deal. That's probably your body gonna fight it off. This is probably why people who get tested and they're positive for COVID-19 have no symptoms at all. They have a very, very small viral load. and therefore they don't actually have COVID-19, full-blown COVID-19. And this is what's made this so hard, and unfortunately this has become political as well. Oh, look at all the new cases of COVID-19. And then you add on top of that where the CDC on their website last weekend put that only 6% of the deaths from COVID-19 actually were only COVID-19 as the cause of death. Now, I get it. Died with COVID, died of COVID is two different things, but COVID was the instigator. I realize the argument against that, but still, this notion that COVID-19 is out there being this major killer. And remember, the original forecasts were that if we don't lock down and we don't start doing all the things, there's going to be upwards of they were estimating as high as 20 to 30 million people dying of COVID-19, and it was way off. Like, we haven't even gotten close to that. And yet that's kind of the notion that was put out there. If you're just joining us, this is Ask Me Anything. So literally, this is your chance to ask any question you want. I've been in this business for a little while, 15 plus years, talking about low carb diets, keto, fasting, cholesterol, podcasting, book writing, or anything you want to ask me personally, or really anything that you would love my perspective on. I'm happy to get to your questions here in just a minute. Thank you for joining us today on Jimmy Rants. I'm reading some headlines that kind of caught my attention. I always do this at the beginning of the show on Fridays. Let's see. Oh, here was one. All of you on Instagram, listen up. Alternative health sites are getting targeted. If you haven't noticed, there's been some censorship happening in 2020, and the censorship is real. And of course, if you're a layperson and you're not really into like posting, and you don't have this kind of influence that a lot of people have, the influencers are all kind of being shadow banned when they say certain things. You can't even say certain words on podcasts and videos anymore, or the Gestapo tactics kick in and they just yank it off. Well, guess what they just did to one of these sites? It's called Green Med Info. Green Med Info was deleted from Instagram. Just suddenly deleted. They had been warned on July the 8th and July 30th that they would be deleted for promoting harmful false info. What was the false info? They had a tweet from Ron Paul talking about the daily death count and tests, and how COVID is at the stage where it cannot be classified as an epidemic because the deaths are too low. Still everybody's wearing a mask, blah, blah, blah. So they called that misinformation. To me, that's not misinformation. That's information. Because I am one of those people that believes in the collective wisdom of individuals to think for themselves. Does everybody think for themselves? No. You've got a lot of people that love other people to think for them, and they love to go to groupthink. And so just tell me what to think. Oh, that's what we're supposed to think? Okay. Blah, blah, blah. And that's what they think. But there are a lot of people that happily think for themselves. So they pulled Green Med Info from Instagram. You cannot find them on Instagram anymore. They were deleted completely without any explanation. The only statement they got from Instagram was, your account has been disabled. They had nearly 100,000 followers. So obviously Green Med Info, you can still go to greenmedinfo.com if you want to read more about this story, but they're concerned because Instagram owns, or Facebook owns Instagram, that Facebook will be next. At Facebook, they have over 500,000 followers there. And they probably have a YouTube account. Like this censorship thing, guys, this is going to be the end of social media. Now, I realize I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube. Whether you know it or not, all of this could go away in a flash. Because they decide they don't want you to hear people like me, people like Green Med Info. You name your favorite person you like to follow in the alternative health space. they could be gone in an instant, which is why a lot of us are starting to have our own platforms. I have a platform for this show right here. It's jimmyrants.com. I own that platform. We set it up because last year I got my YouTube channel totally taken down, just like the Green Med Info with Instagram. Totally took it down. All the videos just disappeared overnight. It turns out that a bunch of vegans all ganged up on my videos and reported them all as whatever, hate speech or whatever they did, and without even giving me without like looking at it and seeing if there was any legitimacy to the concern, they just pulled it down. Now, thankfully, enough of my fans on YouTube wrote to them complaining, we like what he does, we want to watch his videos here, please bring it back. And about 3 weeks later, this was just before my sabbatical last year, 3 weeks later, they got it back up, like 2 days before I left on sabbatical. And it's still up now. And it was never any explanation. They just took it down and didn't give a crap about me. So start looking at your favorite people and see where their account is that they own. And again, for me, it's jimmyrants.com. I own that. I pay for a server to house all my videos. We're also working on how we can live stream from there. My web guy Hank's been working on that, and we might do a test of that one soon because I want to start going live from there in case the inevitable, like what happened to Green Med Info happens. They're off of here, off of here, off of here. It will always be at jimmyrants.com. So I hope it doesn't come to that, but guys, you need to be prepared. It's coming to that. It's coming to that. And those of us that are content providers, we're bracing for when we're next, because it won't take much. Okay, I've been jibber jabbering. I've got a few more here, but I'm gonna go ahead and go to your questions because I don't want to take up so much time with all these headlines. But I do have a few more in case you guys go silent on me. Again, ask me anything. Get your questions down there, you guys. Start asking your questions, and I'll come to you in just a moment. I did have 2 questions come in ahead of time, so we'll get to those first. The first question, Freestyle Libre. So remember, that's the CGM, the continuous glucose monitor. He's only 3 days in, blood sugar numbers ranging from 87 to 110. I'm curious about the implications about why blood glucose won't go lower. Why are you worried about that blood glucose? 87 to 110, why are you worried about that blood glucose? If that's both fasted levels as well as postprandial levels, it looks like you're in a very tight range of your blood sugar. That's less than 25 points of your blood sugar, both fasted and postprandial. Like, why are you worried about that? Now I get it, you're like, well, I eat keto, it should be in the 70s, and okay, fine. But remember, we're all at different levels on this. We all have different metabolisms. 87 might be your normal, and you need to give yourself a break. What's your expectation? Are you wanting it to be 70 for the low and not go above 90? Like, let's not let really good, which is what you're seeing here with your blood glucose numbers, don't let really good get in the way of your ideal of perfection in your blood glucose. This is what I don't like about all these tools. People, and plus the exposure to other people who post their data from the same device online. You think, oh my gosh, I saw X person post their blood glucose from their Freestyle Libre, and they had a 75 blood glucose. Mine is 87. Oh no, what am I doing wrong? Why isn't it lower? Like, literally, it's normal. It's wonderful. Celebrate. Like, I get it. I guess people's brains want a competition, but at the end of the day, 87 to 110 as both a fasted and a postprandial reading of your blood glucose throughout the day, that's a tight reading. It tells me you keto very well, and that's what you're looking for with these things, by the way. You're not looking for absolute numbers. You're wanting to see the range, and that range is really good. It's the same as if somebody had a 70 as their fasted blood glucose and 95 as their high. That's no different than yours. Look for that range. Now, if you saw 87 and then 170 as the range, yeah, I'd be concerned for you. something is spiking your glucose, but none of that tells me that your glucose is being spiked at all. But thank you for your question. Next question, I'm insulin resistant and I struggle with waking up 4 to 5 hours after I go to sleep. Why? So it's interesting you give the caveat at the beginning that you're insulin resistant. I don't know that the insulin resistance has anything to do with it or not, because struggling with waking up 4 to 5 hours in could be a number of things. If you ate late, that could be a reason why you wake up suddenly in the middle of the night, 4 or 5 hours into sleep, because your body's still digesting, and there's a lot of activity that goes on when your body's digesting that you can sleep for a few hours, but suddenly you could be awake. You could have some unresolved stress, which would raise some cortisol levels, which would wake you up. I mean, there's any number of directions. You could have noise and or light that could be disturbing your sleep. But insulin resistance in and of itself should not be anything that would make you struggle with sleep. Yes, blood sugar dysregulation and insulin production can, make some of those metabolic things that would cause you to wake up to be exacerbated. But at the end of the day, those things in and of themselves aren't related. So I don't think the insulin resistance has anything to do with it. I would just say focus on the sleep environment. Make sure it's really cool. If you get too hot at night, maybe get some fans. Definitely turn the air down. I keep mine at 65 at night so that I'm plenty cool. As dark as possible, get blackout curtains or blinds. You want to take some magnesium oxide or not citrate, glycinate or oxide about an hour before bedtime. Try to avoid melatonin because it can be counterproductive in the long run. All the things. I've talked about sleep before, but set your environment to help you sleep. And then don't eat 4 hours before you go to bed. Make that the last time you eat. Don't eat anything within 4 hours of your bedtime, and same with drinking. Yeah, any number of things could have woken you up in the middle of the night, but I hope these tips helped you out. Thank you very much. All right, let's go to your questions now, you guys. So this is your time to shine. I am coming to you next, so get ready. We're going to answer your questions here on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. Let's see who's got the first question over here. Rebecca says, I'm 80 hours into my first extended fast. Congratulations. That's 4 days. Good job. Or over 4 days. Pretty good feeling so far. Noticed some changes in skin as well as overall how I feel. How do I know when it's time to end the fast? What are the warning signs? Well, don't think of it as warning signs. There's definitely no danger in fasting for that long. I have fasted for as long as 21 days in a row, like 3 times. So there's nothing to be a warning sign. I guess you mean, when should I decide to end the fast? Well, the fun part about where you are in your fast, 80 hours in, you're now in the part of the fast where you've already experienced the worst part. The worst part is like the first 3 days for most people, specifically day 2, sometimes for some people into day 3. You're into day 4 now. Once you get past day 3, you've already gotten most of the autophagy benefits. At 72 hours, that's kind of when you peak out. But right now, your mental ability and capacity is probably at its highest. You probably have a boost of energy. If you test your ketones in any way, today's the day that they went shoom. And if you test your blood sugar, it probably went down significantly as well. You're in the glory days of an extended fast. If you made it to day 4, go to day 7. And of course, anytime between now and day 7, you start to kind of feel blah. Maybe you get some stress that comes on, and stress will do this, by the way. You get some stress to come on and you suddenly are hungry, like out of nowhere, in the fast. If you just feel like you're just dizzy and you just don't feel good, in the fast. Like don't make it anything that's a big deal. Trust your body. Just know you're already a winner at 80 hours. Most people don't even, Rebecca, even get close to 80 hours of fasting. You've already gotten a lot of great benefits. See how long you can go. I don't recommend going over 7 days, but if you feel good after 7 days and you want to push a little longer, please keep going. But I think most of the benefits that you get from extended fasting, you get within kind of this 5 to 7 day period. And so you're almost there. Definitely keep it going. I'm proud of you. That's awesome. Good stuff. I've never gotten the flu vaccine in my life either, says Jax. I think I've had it one time. I don't think I've ever had the flu at all personally. Um, I've had bad colds before, but I've never had the flu. Sherry says, I gained 10 pounds since the pandemic. Can't seem to get back on my pandemic diet protocols. Troubling because it took 2 years to optimize my diet. Sherry, pre-pandemic is what she was saying. Sherry, can I tell you, you are not alone. This constant droning of fear and dread and the isolation and the lack of socialness between each other, like by this point in the year, I've usually already been to about 6 or 7 keto conferences, hugged thousands of people's necks, been traveling in different places, seeing people, being with people, physical touch with people, like all the things that make us human. I haven't had any of that. Now, I've had a few friends that I've been able to go see, but it's not the same. And so when you're lacking that, you have to look at all that social interaction that we're used to. And let's not forget sports that's been gone for so much. That's a distraction from some of the stresses in your life and a relaxation. That's been gone. It's kind of back now. But all of those things you have to look at like they're a nutrient. We don't stop and think about this, you guys, but yes, we optimize our diet. Yes, we optimize our movement plan. Yes, we optimize kind of meditation and other kind of stress management type things, but we can't go without human contact, without human interaction, without human touch, smiles and smiles back and all of that. At some point, you will become nutrient deficient in that area. Now, again, we don't think of it in that terms because it's not something we think we consume, but you are consuming. Your eyes, your emotions, your psychological state all require this nutrient known as social, being social. So give yourself a break is what I'm saying. That's a long-winded answer, Sherry, to tell you, give yourself a break. We all have had to deal with this. And it's not necessarily because we've eaten bad. This is the odd part. Yes, some people have eaten bad. They're like, oh, I feel so bad. I just want to eat every junk food I can. And they have, and that's predictable that they would gain weight. But I'm hearing from a lot of people that said, I haven't changed one thing in my diet. I basically eat meat and eggs, and I've gained 10, 15 pounds. That's been me too. And I think it's this nutrient deficiency with the being social. So when you can fix it, may have nothing to do with your diet at all. I wouldn't fret about if you've got your diet dialed into what it has been. I wouldn't fret about that. I would try to work on being social again. I would try to make sure that you're not nutrient deficient in that area. And this is something nobody's talking about kind of out there in the mainstream of when you put a mask on people and you tell them to physically distance from one another and you tell them to stay in your house all the time and to not travel and to not hug and to not touch. The funniest one is where they're giving advice now about how to do safe sex. Safe sex used to have kind of another connotation involving a condom. Now safe sex is wear a mask when you have sex, and I'm going, how's that work? Socially distance when you're doing it. How's that work? It's just funny, some of the things, but no, we need to get back this nutrient of being social. And when we get that back, I think the weight will come off. But hang in there, Sherry. You're not alone. Jack said, think back to how you felt when you were rocking your keto life. Tap into that energy and get back on track. Yes, thank you, Jax. That's good advice. Can we talk about the 98% survival rate even with comorbidities? Yeah, Jax brings up a good point about COVID-19. All of this kind of ginning up, even with the flaws in the testing and everything, it really is Most people are recovering. And why isn't 98% recovery, and that's even on the low end, the high end, some people are saying as high as like 99 point something percent recovery for people, even with the comorbidities. That's not the headline. We want to focus in on that minuscule number of people. Yes, they're people. Yes, it's unfortunate deaths, but let's not pretend like that everything needed to shut down just for that little minuscule number of people. Teresa has the next question. When you intermittent fast, do you consume anything other than waters? Great question. When I first started doing fasting, now you're talking about intermittent fasting. Can I just tell you, intermittent fasting, just live your life. Like intermittent fasting, you're talking about 18 hours of not eating, and then you're eating within like a 6-hour window. Okay, just drink water. Like, well, why does it have to be a big deal? Like, what would you want to drink in that period? Now, extended fasting is a different thing. Some people think they need something. I still think you need water. One thing I would add, if you're gonna drink during your intermittent fast or even an extended fast, don't just drink water. Drink water and consume salt. So I just ordered a 10-pound bucket of Redmond's real salt. It's supposed to arrive here from Amazon today. But have that salt available, and you'll actually ward off a lot of the ramifications that would happen if you had any hunger or cravings and all that. But no, don't sweat an intermittent fast. Just drink water. You can make it in that time. If you want to drink something else in your eating window, that's fine. But in your fasting window, you're going to give yourself the best benefit if you just stick with water and salt. Donnell says, I just watched a program, said new studies show egg yolks do cause platelets to get sticky, causing clots. Any reliable studies that refute this? I've never seen a study like that. Was it a randomized control clinical trial? Was it just an observational kind of epidemiological type of study? And the way you can know this is how many people were in the study. If they're like 100,000 people were in this study, you know right away it wasn't a randomized controlled trial. It's an epidemiological observational study. If they said 75 were randomized into 2 groups, then that's a legit study. So I'm not familiar with the study you're referring to. All I know is egg yolks are one of the best things you can do for your heart health. They are not contributing to clots. I'm not understanding why that would even be the case. The only thing I can think of is it's a bad study and they extrapolated of associations and not causations. But definitely I'm interested, Donnell. If you will DM me that study, I'll take a look at it when we're done here. What can you drink during a long fast, says Coolio. So as I was just saying, you want to try to stick with water and salt. And again, remember, I've done every kind of fast there is on an extended fast as well. And I've drank things and done things. So I've had diet soda, stokes hunger. I've had bone broth, stokes hunger. Really bad. I've had kombucha, stokes hunger. The only thing that doesn't stoke hunger is just drinking water and getting adequate amounts of salt and other forms of electrolytes. Just don't do that to yourself. People think they need that. They think, oh, it's a little something, so I'll feel good. No, no, no. It's counterproductive to your goal. When you're extended fasting, your nemesis in an extended fast is hunger and cravings. Headaches and other things happen as well, but no, don't have anything but water and salt. And if you do that, you'll be okay. Are electrolytes allowed during fasting? No, they're not allowed. They're required. Required, because you're dumping a lot of electrolytes when you go on a fast. You've got to think of fasting as kind of this supercharged ketogenic state. So, you know, when you eat keto, you're shifting your body from sugar burner to fat burner, and you're dumping electrolytes and water and all this from your glycogen stores, sugar out of your body. So you have to replenish on the regular. I make these little gelatins with the Further Food gelatin, and then I take some of the Keto Vitals electrolyte powder, and I make these little squares that I pop for my electrolytes. And so when you're fasting, you better take electrolytes so that you can replenish. The Lucky Stove says, realizing that I'm somewhat of a control freak, I find that my diet is the only thing that I can control. Finding balance is so hard for me. The extremes are real. How do you balance? Realizing I'm somewhat of a control freak, I find my diet is the only thing that I can control. Well, I wouldn't even see it as control. Just say, this is the way I eat. I think your kind of personality is not uncommon, so thank you for asking your question. I think sometimes we think, well, I have to just meticulously control this diet. The way you could throw a monkey wrench in that every once in a while is to not control it. Allow yourself, I know I'm about to get controversial, allow yourself to have something off plan. What? When you do that, you take away the control of the moment where you're meticulously staying within this tight, strict, it's the only way you can, because you're developing this condition where you feel like you have to stay strict all the time or you're going to die, you're going to get sick, whatever. It's called orthorexia. So you don't want to slip into orthorexia where you literally have fooled your brain into thinking that you can literally never go off plan. So the monkey wrench to find that balance and to get off the extremes that you're saying is to eat something off plan. Now, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Have a sweet potato. Okay, I had a sweet potato. Oh no, I'm out of ketosis. Oh no, my blood sugar went up. Okay, good. Now get back on plan. How do you feel? Do you feel restricted again? Do you feel like you're having to control so tightly? Because what you're doing there is actually counterproductive to what you're trying to accomplish. When you are so much in control of your diet, you're stressing your body to no end. You might as well be eating crappy garbage if you're going to stress about your diet to that degree. So I say throw the monkey wrench in there, have something off plan, and then mentally note that. Did anything bad happen? Yeah, you got kicked out of ketosis. Yeah, you might have gained a pound or two. Yeah, you probably saw your blood sugar go up. Within a couple days after that, was it a big deal? The pounds are off, blood sugar's back down, ketones are back up. No big deal. You've got to let yourself go through that. But thank you for that question. Somebody wrote another question. You wrote it too long. I'm considering a 3-day fast to usher in my 1-year ketoversary. Should I start OMAD before and then it cut off? No, we talked about this on a previous Jimmy Rants. I think it was on Ask Me Anything last week. If you're going to go on some kind of a fasting protocol, go keto first. People say, well, I'll fast so I can get into ketosis, and you have it backwards. You need to get into ketosis first, get very well keto adapted, let your body be used to being a fat burner, and through that metabolic process, then your body will be ready to take on the challenge of a fast because you're already in that mode. So hope that answers your question. But thank you. Oh, one more came in. Torless the Drug says, Doc says to increase carbs from 0, which I'm on the carnivore diet, to aid my thyroid. Agree or disagree? Well, thyroid is kind of an interesting one because doctors look at it through a very, very narrow scope. In my book, Keto Clarity, we actually talked about ketogenic diets and the same thing where they often say, well, the reason keto is so horrible is it destroys your thyroid. And I started looking into that a little bit more. What they're referring to is it pulls some of the thyroid numbers down from what they consider the normal. Okay, so who says that those thyroid ranges that they have at your doctor's office are normal? Keep in mind that those people that go into the doctor's office tend to be carb eaters. They tend to be sick. So we're looking at carb eaters, which is totally different from you. You eat carnivore. They're sick, and you're probably relatively not sick, except for the thyroid issues you're dealing with. If you don't have Hashimoto's, if you don't have some condition with your thyroid. He's just concerned about your thyroid. Even if you do have those conditions, a carnivore diet is probably one of the best things you can do. I interviewed Rebecca Farmer, Tailored Keto Health, here on Instagram recently on my podcast, and she was on 10 autoimmune diseases, including of her thyroid, and just a mess. She had 20 plus conditions she was dealing with, Lyme disease, you name it, she had the disease, and she's in her very early 20s right now and was able to overcome it. So you want to make sure that you're not exacerbating it. But back to what I was writing in Keto Clarity. Lower number does not mean a lower function. People say, well, my thyroid is low. Well, what's that mean? Well, the number was outside the range on the low end. Well, lower does not necessarily mean a bad thing. A lower level of thyroid, whatever the number that you're tracking, may not mean that it's a lower function. It might actually mean that your thyroid's running a lot more efficiently. So when you're not consuming things like carbohydrates that would raise that thyroid level, you might actually see your thyroid running a lot more efficiently. This is the same thing with blood sugar. People freak out. Oh no, I'm eating keto and my blood sugar is in hypoglycemia now because I have a 70 blood sugar eating keto. Well, no, you're not in hypoglycemia. You're in a better range of blood sugar because of the things that you're choosing to eat in your diet. So get the terminology out of your mind that you necessarily need carbohydrates to improve your thyroid. No, you eliminating those carbohydrates is exactly what is making your thyroid health a whole lot better. Donnell wants to know, how about, speaking of thyroid, do you recommend iodine? I don't think you should just willy-nilly take iodine. You definitely need to see where you are. There's been a lot of people I've interviewed over the years, Dr. Johnny Labbe, L-A-B-B-E, Dr. Datis Karazian. There's a lots of really great doctors out there who are looking at thyroid health and targeting with iodine to help with thyroid, but don't just willy-nilly take it. Yes, I'm in favor of it in the right circumstance, but you really need to work with a functional medicine doctor or someone like that to try to help with you. All right, thank you, Instagram. Let me pop over here now to my Facebook page. What's up, Facebook? See what you guys have to ask. Again, we're on Ask Me Anything, so keep asking your questions if you want me to answer. Judy says, I've never had the flu vaccine and I won't be getting COVID either. Yeah, you're not alone. You're not alone. Holly says the same thing, and she's 63. Judy says, do you take a K3 supplement with your vitamin D3? Thank you. So at the beginning, if you came in late, I was reading that in the studies that they've been doing of COVID-19, they found that raising the level of vitamin D in the blood of these patients who have hospitalization due to COVID-19 and have pneumonia, 98% of them don't go to the ICU when they get sufficient levels of vitamin D. So that's why she's asking about D3. But to answer your question, Judy, yes, D3, and it's K2, not K3. So it's K2 with D3. And in fact, they sell little blends of that now. And so yes, I take a version that has both D3 and K2 in it. Tara says, if you have sleep problems, make sure you take vitamin D3 first thing in the morning, not in the afternoon. It's a dose of sunshine. Yes, I highly recommend people get out in the sun for sure. Thank you for that, Tara. It's underrated. Plus, it helps set your circadian rhythm by having that sun hit your eyeballs. You're not looking at the sun, but you're getting that sunlight in your eyes. I have a big, beautiful backyard back there where the sun comes through in the morning at a certain angle, and I'll stand on the other end of my property and kind of look that way and let the sun kind of come in. Plus, it feels good being out there. Middle of the day, same thing. I kind of get out there and let it kind of bask. And then as the sun is setting, I look that way and it comes in this way. And it's just, I mean, it just sets your circadian rhythm better than anything. It's not natural to take your vitamin D3 at night, will affect your sleep, ensuring you wake up 4 to 5 hours into the sleep cycle. Seth Roberts and I studied this back in the day. Yes, you did. And I, by default, take vitamin D in the morning, along with having the sun. So thank you for that. Appreciate your input there, Tara. Kira says, do you have any tips on de-stressing and lowering cortisol? I can't even manage getting to watch your show live this week. I'm so busy, so much going on. That's the $1,000,000 question right now, because everybody and their mama is dealing with stress. The biggest thing you can do is just take things in stride. I think people who get overly stressed have not learned to manage their time. Now, I'm a very busy guy. I do heavy amounts of content on a daily basis through this show and my podcasts and the content I do on social media. I stay busy, but I also work in those moments where I just stop and relax, stop and just a few deep breaths within like a couple minutes, it brings you back center again. You also do a lot of mindfulness, a lot of meditation, and people kind of woo-woo some of that stuff, but it works. It really does. And showing gratitude and just doing all the things. I'm very lucky. I have a massage chair and a sauna and a hot tub, and I use all these things all the time to just chill. Sometimes I'll just zone out watching some comedy on television. I'll just pop on something I've recorded or Netflix. Or I'll play a game on my phone like Words with Friends or something. Just anything that would just kind of take your mind off of everything. Sometimes those of us that have an active mind, we also replay scenarios in our head, and that adds to the stress. So whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're concerned about, flip the script on it. Don't allow it to consume you. Allow or take back control of it by doing all those things that we just said. Sorry you're going through that, Kira, but you're not alone. She said, part of my stress is now learning that one of my chickens is starting to crow. Uh-oh. Hope my neighbors don't complain. Can I remove the voice box on a rooster? No, you need to remove the rooster. Did I ever tell you the story? When I first brought home chickens, I thought we had 6 hens. And I remember we bought the chickens at a flea market. And it was a Hispanic guy, so he didn't speak very good English. And I remember saying, these are all girl chickens, right? They're all hens, right? See. We bring home those 6 chickens of 6 hens. The next morning, 4 of them were crowing like nobody's business. Cock-a-doodle-doodling by nobody's business. And I went, oh crap, because we live in a residential area and I would not do that to my neighbors. So I should have taken video of this, but I had like a big sheet blanket and I'm running all over the backyard trying to cover them up, swoop them up, stick them in the cage, and then get the next one, cover them up, swoop them up, put them in the cage. It took me 2 hours to carousel 4 roosters. And we took them back to the guy and said, can we please have girl chickens? Bonita chicas, por favor. Hey, it makes for a good story now. But no, I would not keep the rooster. I would get rid of that bad boy sooner than later. Thank you, Facebook. Let me pop over here now to my YouTube channel, see what they have to write. And these questions, again, this is Ask Me Anything. Ask away your questions, you guys. Nurse Feelgood says, hi, Jimmy. I've been doing strong lifts, 5x5 on my lunch break. I have a goal of 3 times a week. Plan all meals, buy only what I need, eat everything. Good so far, adding a goal to stop looking at my phone in bed. Good goal. You don't want that blue light at night. Keep it up. That sounded really awesome. Christy said, I find when I'm doing extended fasting, I can sleep 5 to 6 hours and feel fantastic. But when on eating days, I need 7 to 8. Any idea why? Yeah. Christy, we actually talked about this in my book, The Complete Guide to Fasting. And I've interviewed some sleep experts about this. And it even happens to a lesser degree in some people that go into ketosis. When you fast or when you get into a deep state of ketosis, your body actually doesn't need as much recovery. Like, think about it. When you're eating crap, and your body's having to counterbalance all of that junk that you're eating. Now, you're not eating junk now, but think about your crappy garbage eating days. the reason why you slept more on those days was your body had to do more managing of the damage that was done. Now, you're eating keto and you're sleeping that 7 to 8. I would dare say when you were a carb burner, you were probably sleeping about 8 to 9. Then it's 7 to 8 with keto, and now with fasting, it's 5 to 6. You're getting really efficient sleep. And of course, I track my sleep with the Oura Ring. It's been giving me trouble lately. The data has been way off lately, so I'm going to have to try to figure out what's going on. But in general, it's a good tracker. But some people wear the Fitbit for their sleep. There's all kinds of little tracking devices for your sleep now. And you can see exactly what the recovery kind of sleep you are getting is with these things. And so I would say if you're getting 5 to 6 hours and you wake up and you feel good, you're probably getting good recovery sleep, REM, and deep sleep specifically. But I wouldn't sweat it. I think it's a great thing. It means your body's not having to work as hard. There's not as much to recover from. Like, recovery is everything in your body. People usually think of recovery just in the context of exercise, but in the context of just your body itself, recovery happens on a daily basis. Synapses in your brain, just so many things get to be recovered at night. And when you're in a fasted state, you don't have as much that you need to recover from. Now, some people translate that less sleep that they get on a fast, they translate it as, oh, I had a crappy night's sleep, only because of the duration of the sleep. Not realizing they wake up, they're refreshed, they feel good. Oh my gosh, I didn't need as much sleep. So don't translate, if you're one of those people that translates, I got crappy sleep when I went on a fast because you slept, 5 or 6 hours. Don't assume that just because you only slept 5 or 6 hours that you had crap sleep. You probably had efficient sleep because your body fully recovered because of your fasting. Make sense? Is it time for another 7-day fast? I'd be on board for that, says Shirley. Sounds like we have some curious fasters on here. I'm not ready personally. I know the last time I tried to fast, when we did that corporate fast, I believe it was in the July. Might have been June. I've been under an immense amount of stress this year, more than I talk about here. I have certain personal situations in my life going on, along with all the other things that are going on. So I don't think I'm ready to go on like a long fast, like a 7-day fast. I do intermittent fast on the regular. That's pretty easy for me to do. If I do push a fast a little longer, maybe a 36 to 42 hour fast, but for me and my sanity and knowing my situation in my body, I can't be the one that leads that. So it would be kind of weird for me to lead a 7-day fast and I'm not participating in it. So thank you for the suggestion, and I'm definitely wanting to do more group fasts again, but I just don't think I'm in a good spot to do it yet. Nurse Feelgood, I'm going to reward my progress with a ketone glucose monitor. Would you recommend Keto Mojo or waiting for Keto Coach dual monitor to come out within a few months? Actually, I'm going away from blood ketone testing. Not that I think either one of those is bad. Whatever one you think would be best for you, that's great. But I have fallen in love with this thing here. It's called the BioSense. So it's a breath device. This one was developed by some nerdy researchers that went through all kinds of like trials and FDA approval and all this stuff. And what it is, it's again called BioSense. I believe their website, mybiosense.com, but BioSense. And you blow into it and it gives you a readout here. And it's a 10-to-1 ratio of the breath ketone to translating into beta hydroxybutyrate, which is the blood ketone. So if you blow a 10 on this device, that's just like a 1.0 on the blood meter. And I've done a few tests side by side with a blood meter using this, and it's pretty spot on. So if you don't like pricking your finger, you might consider getting one of these. Now, the only bad thing is this device is very sophisticated. Translation is expensive. It's a few $100s. So just keep that in mind if you decide to get this. But mybiosense.com, I believe, is the website. If you go, I'm trying to remember, they gave me a discount code. It might be my name, Jimmy. I think it gives you $30 off. But I did it because I loved it. They sent me one and I just fell in love with it. So check it out. That could be an option. But yeah, I mean, if Keto Coach X is going to have a both glucose and ketone monitor, they're a great meter. I'm a little concerned about Keto Mojo. They are very apt for having miscalculations of your blood ketone levels. That's just my personal experience of that particular meter. But if I was going to choose between those two, I would definitely get the Keto Coach X. All right, thank you, YouTube. Let me pop back over here now to my Instagram page, see what questions came in since I left. Oh, I see my bud Abel James came on. If you guys missed my interview with Abel James, it was on the Real Talk podcast just yesterday. Go to llvlc.com and it's right there. You can watch or you can listen to it. It's also over on YouTube if you want to watch the video. Abel's got the voice from God with the way he talks, and I love it, man. He's a fellow podcaster. We got roostered with our baby hens growing up too. Yeah, when you get little hens, when you have them as little chicks, they tell you expect to have a few roosters because they don't know, because when they're little chicks, they all look the same. So we got, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, we got 16 chicks. And so of the 16 chicks, they said, well, expect at least like 3 to 5 of them to be roosters. Would you know, not one single one was a rooster. We were just fully expecting that there would be roosters, and they were all hens. So we had 16 on top of our other flock. So I think the biggest number we had on this property were 32 chickens. I currently have half of that. I have 16 now, but Abel says roosters can be mean. Yes, that was the first thing when these chickens came home. I had never had chickens before, so I didn't realize behavior of chickens, what was normal, what was not normal. And I saw those 4 that we were talking about. It's going to be funny to you guys, but those 4, they were running all over the yard. They were digging like really aggressively. At one point, they jumped on top of one of the actual hens and started, well, you know what they started doing. And so, yeah, the behavior of roosters is very aggressive and very mean. So you're exactly right. Fat Bernie Man, Ring has a new firmware update and a soft reset and hard reset. Maybe that would help. Oh, I am going to try that. I did not try that yet. Thank you, Abel, for that. Tia says, I'm borderline diabetic. I suffer from hypothyroidism, chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue. Do you recommend fasting? My doctor doesn't think fasting is a good idea for me because of all of this. It's not a good idea for you. I think you need to try to get those things under control, because if you're chronically fatigued, if you're adrenally fatigued, if you have hypothyroidism, you got to deal with some of those issues. And see, sometimes people are like, well, fasting is healthy, and so therefore all people should be fasting who want to fast and be healthy. No. Fasting, I would say, is next level in your journey. Get some of your health conditions under control first, vis-a-vis whatever chosen diet plan, whatever other therapy that you decide to do. But don't just assume, well, we all know fasting is healthy. Jimmy Moore and Jason Fung wrote a whole book about it, so it must be good for everybody. And I wrote a book about fasting, and I'm here to tell you, if you're that sick and you have all those things going on, don't fast. It's going to be counterproductive to fast in that context, okay? So good for you having a doctor who recognizes that. Get those conditions under control. And the good news is, if you eat a ketogenic diet, if you eat a real food-based diet, you probably can bring those things under control. Try to get your stress levels down as well. All of those things can be adverse to your health. And see, here's the thing that people don't think about with fasting. Fasting, I know it's going to be a shocker, but fasting in and of itself is a stressor on the body. So if you're already adrenal fatigued, you already have chronic fatigue, you already have hypothyroidism, and you add another stressor on top of that, yeah, that's no bueno. You don't want to do that. So, but thank you for that question. And guys, we are all out of time for this Ask Me Anything. Thank you so much for all of your questions and interacting here today. I always love being here with you guys on Fridays, answering your questions, and you had some really good ones here today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, engage live in the content. It's right here on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so be there, be square. Appreciate you being here today on Jimmy Rants. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page as well as on my YouTube channel. Thank you all for being here today. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay right here on IGTV. As soon as this is over, we will pop it right up to there so you can watch it there. We also put the past episodes up over on YouTube. Type in a keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, you guys, you can support me. Go to the official website for this show, JimmyRants.com. You can watch the past episodes there as well. But I need your support. This show is going to go away if I don't get people to support the work that I do. And so I want to keep going. I love doing this, but I have a Patreon page and a PayPal link right there at JimmyRants.com. If you love this and you get edification out of it and your life has been enhanced in some way, please consider becoming a Patreon or doing a one-time donation. All of that, you guys, would be greatly appreciated. All right, guys, have a good weekend. I will be here on Monday on the holiday, Labor Day. I will be here. So if you're off work, be sure to tune in 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday. And until then, we'll see you then. All right. We are done with the show. Knock 'em out. Why am I talking like this? I get giddy on Fridays. You guys get that way? Sometimes you just kind of go cray-cray on Fridays. No, it's just me. All right, guys, let me get off of here for now. Thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye. Bye, guys.